Welcome to Night Light. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Night Light, a reminder that you are never alone.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. Last week's show with Linda Sigmund and Joey Medea was very well received by the viewers, and we are just so appreciative that so many people tuned in live or watched the archive. Tonight is more mothiness, and we're going to take the discussions in new directions. We have the Mothman Festival MC Steve Ward. He will also be a speaker at the festival. He should be here in just a minute. Bill Kousoulas is the author of Bridging the Tragedy. That's what I like about doing these video shows. Oh, there we go. We got Steve. Now he, Bridging the Tragedy is, really a terrific book, and JACI and Bill do have a new website. It's prpconnect.org, and returning after only being gone for just a couple months, is MAXIM FUREK, and I think he was a guest with Barbara. He's coming up, and he was a guest on the Little Nightlight show, examining various species of Bigfoot. That was the Lost Tribes of Bigfoot book we did just a couple months ago. And Max has a new book out. It's entitled The Smurl Haunting. Okay, so hi everyone. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Hey, Mark.
Okay. Hi. Okay. So one of the things I thought was really important to discuss about the Mothman, legend is how people deal with trauma. And I think, Bill and Jackie's book is a great exploration of the topic of post-traumatic growth. And Max is a Vietnam War veteran. Obviously, he's seen trauma on the battlefield, and it's different than a bridge collapse. But how do people respond to these on events where you really don't have much preparation, or were you somehow prepared uh, by your parents for like first grade? Um, and I thought that was something like that was the basis for this show. And Steve is just knows this all these stories inside and out as well, and he's also a veteran. And I I thought we could you know just look at how people grow or crumble when they are confronted with some of these really unnatural kind of circumstances. So,
Whoa.
and
Dogs are...
that's our dog. We have our support dog here on the show too, to calm us down as we get into these deep topics. But Bill, do you want to give us a general overview of what you found in post-traumatic growth? And we kind of bounce back and forth and look at various responses.
Mark, at the moment, my dogs are a little bit out of control. So once they settle down, I'll come back off of mute. But I think at the moment, I'm going to have to.
Okay. Well, okay. How about if we start with Max, and tell us a little bit about your work with being a counselor, a drug and alcohol.
Yeah, I worked as a psychologist, mainly in addictions. So I worked with people that were either addicted to heroin or alcohol or the behaviors or all of the above. But the thing I wanted to say, and I know that Bill probably has a lot more to lend to this, but when you talk about trauma, and let's just talk, and first of all, Steve, I met you, I believe, at the 18th annual paranormal conference in Butler, Pennsylvania. Yes. Weren't you there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I was one of the guest speakers there, and that was Daniel. Yes. And the last time, Mark, I was on your program, it was you interviewed me and Daniel Hagelman.
Yeah.
So that was back in April. But
yep.
What I wanted to say is this, that we all deal with trauma, and I think when we're little children and something traumatic happens, whatever that is, you either fight, flight, or you freeze. And as a little kid, you can't fight this big thing that's menacing you. You can't run away because you're too small. And so pretty much what you do is you just get into a little fetal position and you freeze. And some people take that trauma into their adult life and they cover it up with addictions, and rather than having therapy and dealing with that. So I think that in a sense, we are all traumatized. I know that John Bradshaw said a witness to violence is a victim of violence. So even if at 3 o'clock in the morning, mommy and daddy are having a fist fight and the cops are coming, and even though you're not touched physically, mentally you're impacted by that trauma. So you are traumatized. It surrounds us. We find ways to deal with it. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of uncertainty in our society. And I think that, the fact that you wrote a book about Silver's Bridge, about Point Pleasant, and focused on that, as a means of looking at PTSD and trauma and all that, I think is a very good and unique tool. So, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. But again, we all deal with trauma, and it became very commonplace to hear PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from Vietnam vets. And before that, we called it shell shock, and there were all kinds of other terms for it. But typically, and again, Bill, when you get the mic on, you could go and add to this, I'm sure, tenfold. But PTSD is what they call a fear phobia. you hear the explosion, and you're very you're waiting for you're very tentative. You're waiting for the next explosion to hit. So you walk through life on tippy toes, waiting for this next trauma. And it doesn't just impact you, but it impacts the family. And it's almost as though you're victimized. So those who suffer from PTSD, it's a very debilitating thing. I mean, there's help for it, but it impacts not only on the individual, but also on the individual's family. So PTSD is a fear phobia where we're waiting for the next big explosion to happen again, as it's happened before. So anyway.
Okay. All right. Bill. Okay. So if we look at one of your sample or
and let me say this too.
Okay.
Our Western Pennsylvania guy, Bill Rigby, claims that when he saw a Bigfoot at 15 feet, that he became traumatized and he got PTSD from that sighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah, he's been on the show discussing that as well.
Right. Okay.
And we can work all that in as well. But Bill, one of your most outstanding interviewees is Carolyn Harris, and okay, if Max is talking about PTSD is fear phobia. It really doesn't seem like she expressed fear about you and JACI being, like new people in town. She seemed to be open to talking with you. So can we look at maybe for a little bit of how Carolyn didn't have a fear. She seemed to overcome the fear phobia. Can you tell us a little bit about dealing with her on like one of your first visits to Point Pleasant?
Sure. Thanks, Mark. And Max, I think you gave a great definition of the condition while my girls were having their own anxiety, because obviously somebody with a 2-pound dog must have been walking by our house. Our dogs are 70 and 80 pounds. So, but you know how it is, big dog versus small dog, long story short. But really, I mean, Carolyn we didn't get a chance to interview her for Bridging the Tragedy, but she was the inspiration for Bridging the Tragedy. JACI and I took a trip in 2016 to Point Pleasant. We happened upon Point Pleasant after everything had shut down, but JACI noticed that Carolyn was looking out of her restaurant, and she convinced me to go talk to Carolyn. So we did, and we just immediately fell in love with her. She was such a kind-hearted, warm, welcoming individual. And I mean, she just really, I could tell after 10 minutes or so that I recognized her. And she told us that she'd been in a number of documentaries, and she told us that she lost her son and her first husband, who she was separated from at the time, in the Silver Bridge disaster. So that immediately, I mean, makes your heart go out. But she said, I don't discuss the bridge disaster. We can talk about the Mothman. We can talk about the UFOs. We can talk about the Men in Black, but I just do not discuss that. So after spending, several days with Carolyn, we went back home after our vacation, and several months later on Christmas Eve, I told JACI that we should call Carolyn because I kind of figured maybe I could convince her to talk about her life story a little bit, because she was so influential in us really going back to Point Pleasant after that initial visit. But unfortunately, that conversation took place on Christmas Eve. Christmas Day, she had a heart attack. The following day, she was gone. So It was almost like it was meant to be, but it wasn't meant to be.
Yep.
And thankfully, due to getting to know Jeff a little bit better, Jeff Wamsley from the Mothman Museum, that kind of helped build our relationship and helped us pave the way to be able to do what we did with Bridging the Tragedy. But when you talk about Carolyn, What she showed us was somebody who had been through such horrific loss. I mean, just horrific. I just can't even imagine what she felt. But she turned her life into a mission to welcome strangers to town, to build community, to build the Mothman Festival, to do all these positive things. So she really was a testament, in my mind, to post-traumatic growth. It's the good things we get to experience as a result of going through things, as the psychologists put it, that shatter cognitive schemas or the way that we see the world. Her whole world was altered for the rest of her life. Just like these folks who also lost loved ones in the Silver Bridge disaster, or earthquake survivors, or folks that have been through combat, or what have you. Or what, honey? Or floods, my wife just mentioned, yes, as well. So, I mean, Carolyn was a testament to all kinds of growth, and we just really dedicated the project to her and to her memory.
It's Steve. Do you find that even today, nearly 60 years later, that the townspeople never still don't forget what happened? It's kind of looking at generational trauma, as I should have phrased that better. But there are the memorials still there. But how are the people that grew up a generation or two after what happened? How are they dealing with the memories?
You still have people that I mean, it was just a huge milestone, and not a positive one at the time. People, I'm talking to people about, we just got off the bridge, or we backed up at the last minute. I was with my father, and even far away. When I was working in South Central Michigan at an electrical wholesaler, I would often wear a Mothman T-shirt, and all kinds of people came through there, and they had a point of reference. They'd say, "Oh, we had family down there. We missed it by 2 weeks," and so forth. So people have never forgotten. I sat down with an old timer one time on a bench in front of the museum, and I always kind of giggle when I call other people old timers. But he said, "Yeah, I was." He talked about how he was right down there, and he actually saw the bridge collapse from his vantage point. So it's and even back when 10 years after the event, I had read John Keel's book. I went down there to see the area. I stumbled on the Low Hotel. I had a map of the TNT area, went out that way, which, of course, for those that don't know, the TNT area is about 8 or 9 miles north of Point Pleasant, where they used to make explosives for World War II. It's the McClintock Wildlife Area now, still very creepy. And when we take people out for the Mothman Hayride for the festival to have some fun, and I would not, as fascinated as I was about the Mothman and the whole thing, I would not ask anybody if they had seen the Mothman or about their sightings, because I was afraid I was going to talk to somebody that had a friend or family member that died on the bridge. This is only 10 years afterwards. And, even decades afterwards, we all know how people are affected. The one thing is that I often work on Saturdays at the museum just to greet people and answer questions and so forth. Occasionally somebody comes by and wants to do an interview, and I forget the exact question that was asked, but the answer I gave, I said, look, there's nothing negative about this. There's no downside to the sort of the little empire that Jeff Walmsley has built. The museum, the Point Pleasant Trading Company, Bunker 304, and then all the history surrounding that area. You can walk 2 blocks up the street and see where the bridge collapsed and the memorial there. And I said, look, there's no shame in buying a Mothman T-shirt. or something to support the museum. There's a spirit of fun there. And also there's a spirit of mystery. I mean, I remember going down there the first times, years after the 77 visit to the festival, and just how fascinating that all was. But there's another more serious side that gets into some of the trauma areas. And that is, we all know people that have had experiences where they've seen a Bigfoot or a winged creature or a UFO or had some missing time or whatever, and how traumatic and how nerve-wracking that can be. Ordinary people experiencing extraordinary events. Right. But when they come to the museum and talk to other people or come to some of these events, even though they may be talking to somebody that has not had exactly the same experience, they can network with people that have had these bizarre experiences and know that they're not alone anymore. And that can be very, I was talking to a lady years ago, Missy from New Hampshire, and she had a missing time experience. And she had a classic, when John Keel said, ask the contactee what they had for breakfast. It turned out she had a whole series of bizarre events, she and her family, over the years. And she was alone at one time until she came forward and started talking to other people. So that's that can be awfully valuable to have, for people to have that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Steve, you were just talking about talking to like an old timer, okay? And they said, we had just gotten off the bridge. I'm sure there's some survivor's guilt involved in some of these types of stories about someone who just got off the bridge or had not entered on to the ramp. It's a little bit like Ishmael from Moby Dick. He was the only survivor from the Pequod. Max, how do people overcome some of these feelings that why didn't I die? Why am I the only one that survived this? There are a lot of interesting sea story. I'm sure Steve can go into more detail about that too. Yeah. But what did you encounter with, talking with your patients?
Well, I wanted to say that what Steve was saying is pretty profound because, when we get together with like-minded people and we talk about things like paranormal experiences, whether it's with cryptids or ufology or demonology, whatever that is, to talk to like-minded people and to make that connection, that validates your experience, your human experience. So that's a wonderful thing that we do. As human beings, we're very resilient, so we can roll with things and bad things. With my job, I worked specifically in addictions, and I talked to people who got into recovery after decades of being using drugs. And I would ask them, well, how did you get off the stuff? I mean, what did you do? And so many people said, I don't know. It was a miracle, that something just happened, that something just popped, that aha experience that got into their head, and that they just decided that they're not going to drink or drug or do the behavior anymore. So that is almost like a mystical, paranormal element. We can't explain how it happened, and they can't either. All they did was call it a miracle. But one of the most powerful things I've seen is people who are in recovery that choose to make positive behavioral changes. And Bill, I don't know what your experience is, but I think to be able to make a behavioral change is one of the hardest, most difficult things going. I mean, how do you do it? You and I, we're fortunate because we read all the books, but I mean, but when you're hampered with whatever it is that you're hampered with, I mean, how do you go and stop it? So, we're all in the same boat in that respect. But what Steve was saying, I know I mentioned John Bradshaw. I remember years ago, I went to this 3-day John Bradshaw conference at this convention center, and there were people from all over the place that were there. But we would go and have the training, and then we'd go out to dinner, and we'd be going back to to our rooms, and invariably some of us would bump into each other in the parking lot, and we would start talking about our stuff, our issues. And I always wanted to write a book, Therapy in the Parking Lot, because it seemed like that was the best place. There were no parameters, there were no restrictions. It was just me and you talking about our human to human stuff. And the thing that I think all of us need to realize, if we don't, I'm sure we do, that human beings are pretty unique. We are resilient. We have powers. We are above the animals because we have more DNA. And this is an example of more being better. We just have more DNA to help with our cognition and our spirituality and everything else. We got more, and more is better. And even though maybe the apes can climb trees better than us and the cheetah can run faster than us, we can do other things too. So that's the good thing. We're resilient. But Mark, and sorry to be so long-winded, and 20 minutes later, I'm getting back to your question, but why is it that, when people deal with a tragedy like Silver Spring, that some people can roll with it with resilience and with connection, with therapy, and other people suffer from survivor's guilt? And again, part of that human condition that we just wear that cloak of guilt and shame, and we just got to, for some reason, feel bad about ourselves, when rather than celebrating the fact that you survived, you were one of the fortunate ones. Instead of celebrating that, many of us, just look at the opposite and saying that, why me? Why poor, pathetic me? Why did I survive when somebody else had to die? So again, that's the human condition, and we are not just one brand, but there's all kinds of us. We're all different. We respond different, some better than others. And you would think that maybe some of us would be more adept at dealing with trauma just because we know about it. But again, when it happens, we're human beings, and the emotions kick in, and who knows if we're gonna fight, fight, run away, or freeze. Who knows? So I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of these questions. They're great questions, but there may not be great answers to these.
Yeah, Max, you just mentioned the proposed book idea, Therapy in the Parking Lot.
Well, are you're gonna start on that book and use that title, Mark?
No, you better copyright it, or somebody's going to grab it.
Why don't the four of us write it? Yeah, we'll do that. So.
Yeah. I think some of it has already been written, but in Jeff's book, I forget what page it's on. Jeff's Walmsley Mothman book. He's talking about when the Scarberries came into town, that once the car got there, and they went to the police station, one of the people demanded to see a priest. I think it was Linda. Yes, Steve can correct me if I'm wrong. I can't find the exact quote.
I do know that Jeff told me that years later, a nurse that worked at the local hospital there, forgive my cat walking in front of one of my cats here, she came to him. She was working that night that the Linda Scarberry, but the Scarberries and the Mallets were chased by the Mothman on Route 62, and she said that 2 women were admitted that night to be treated for shock. Now, Jeff had never heard this before. This is years ago when Linda Scarberry was still with us. And so he went to Linda and he said, Linda, were you and Mary, did you go to the hospital to be treated for shock? He said, yes, we did. It was late at night. But I don't know if that's what you're referring to. One other quick thing, Mark, talking about survivor's guilt. I talked to Bill Edmondson in 2017 at the 50-year remembrance ceremony, or that weekend. And a friend of mine and I, John Lee, we met him down at the River Museum. And he was 88, which means he was 38 when he was crossing the bridge in his semi. And of course, in reality, the bridge took 30 to 40 seconds to collapse, unlike the movie where Richard Gere had plenty of time to warn people. But he went through the windshield, right arm first, when everything gave way. And it was freezing cold out. He went into the water, the currents pulled him up, and a tugboat captain saw him and cut him off downriver and pulled him up, and they got him to the hospital. He's mentioned in an article in the Mothman Museum. They get his name wrong. They call him Bill Edmonds. But he, his partner apparently was in the sleeper cab and never got out. So he was there to pay his respects to those that had died with the bridge collapse. But, he didn't really talk about it much. But, you could tell he was wondering, why me? Why did I survive this? So again, he came to pay his respects to those that had perished on the bridge.
I did want to say, Mark, that one, I think, interesting correlation is this. When you take a look at, and Bill, you probably know about this, but when you talk to individuals that had been sexually assaulted, and you ask the question, what type of behavior would you expect that person to go and display? And we found out that it could be anything. The whole continuum could be, this individual could be sexually active, promiscuous, or at the other end of the continuum, they could just be very shut down, or anything in between. I mean, there's no one behavior that these individuals will go and display. It's, whatever manifest, whatever their genetics, their DNA, their mindset, whatever way they choose to deal with this trauma, I should say that. So it's very widespread. It's on a continuum, and, there's no guessing what they're going to do. Because, I know that back in the early days when we were trying to figure this out, when we saw some women, for example, who had been sexually abused or assaulted, that they were sexually active, and we would ask, why would they do that? And, it's, again, that's their choice, but that's their mechanism for coping with, the horror that they had. So, Bill, does that make sense to you?
It does, Max. And what I'm thinking is that everybody is individual. So we all process our emotions differently according to the way we see the world, and however we're compelled to be able to either act out upon trauma or to try to seek some type of recovery from it. But there's no guarantee that one trauma is going to have the same impact on every individual, because we're just all different people.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And during last week's show, had Linda Sigmund as one of the panelists, and she even talks about after what she and her boyfriend experienced, the 2 UFOs that preceded the Mothman sighting. When she got home, she was, run to the front porch. Hey, Dad, you aren't gonna believe what we saw. And he's like, Oh, hey, did you see that too? Mom and I saw it. Yeah, so that's just another example of just stemming from the same event. How or about the within the same time period is how people saw something so unusual that they had to express themselves to others, and that just seems to be a trait, just a human trait of I think we spoke a little earlier about just not wanting to be alone. There's some just something that you have to get off your chest, that you saw something really bizarre. Is that kind of like the first steps of healing from such an event?
Well, for some of us, the most human thing we can do is to make a connection with somebody else. Whether it's in the parking lot or at the paranormal conference or at the Bigfoot campout or whatever. But people that are addicted or mentally ill or filled with shame don't feel that they're worthy of that connection. So they're out there on the outside, which is a very sad and lonely existence because they're not making that human connection. But people that, let me say, I don't know how I want to say this, but I mean, people that are, I don't want to use the word healthy, but I think that's the term. People that maybe feel good about themselves, and realize that, that it's just, there's a lot of joy in connecting with other people. So, we do that because we love that joy. We like to meet people. I mean, this is the most awesome thing, to talk to you guys and to get another perspective on the paranormal. And, I mean, it's just a wonderful, it's good for me. I mean, just like, all this, the stimuli and all the intel, and all that, even with the dogs barking and the cats. So, but this is good. But, the first step in healing, I mean, for those who are healthy, is to ask for help. And a healthy person will ask for help, whereas an unhealthy person will say, "No, I got this. I don't need your help. I can do it myself." So, but there's help there. And for your listeners, if your listeners are having a bad day, if you're feeling the blahs or whatever, there's places to get help. There's no need to go through life feeling miserable and lacking joy and companionship. I mean, you know what to do. Just make a call, talk to a friend, whatever, read a book. But I mean, just, do that. I mean, there's no need to suffer. But there's different steps, and some people, like I dealt in addictions. Some people just keep on doing that drug or behavior over and over and over, despite negative consequences. And it just takes a miracle. It takes something to get them to stop, or else they won't stop. They'll just keep on using until they die. So, I mean, some people don't get it. Some people keep on doing the bad behavior. And, that whole thing is a process, of pre-contemplation, the stages of change, and the, what was the motivational interviewing, all of those stages where we don't make a change until we realize that, hey, maybe I need to make a change. Maybe I'm drinking too much, maybe I'm getting too many DUIs. Maybe I'm doing too much of this and that, maybe I need to stop. So, when we start thinking about that, then we start thinking about making changes. So,
Okay. That's a good answer. And one of the other interesting aspects of looking at trauma is the like the artwork that it produces. Linda's book has all the drawings, different drawings in the background.
mm-hmm.
Look, there's self-portrait with her and Linda and Mothman. But there's the little memorial. Steve's what, two blocks down the street from the museum, and then you get the big mural behind it.
Right, the mural is on the flood wall, the way the bridge used to look at the collapse, and then closer to the street is a memorial, and on the sidewalk are the 46 names of the people that died on the bridge.
Yeah, it's just really, really interesting. If you're reading, Max's books, or Bridging the Tragedy, it's got other samples here. Even with Michael Carter's Initiation. After an abduction or sighting, people usually have a major life change, and that's usually towards wanting to help other people, extending some kind of positive feelings towards building a better world. A topic like that. You can look at Poe's writings. Well, he has a dying wife, from tuberculosis, that he's trying to support over the years. If you know what to look for in a lot of his short stories, well, you can see he's kind of working through what he is facing on a daily basis. It's just really interesting how people just gravitate towards artwork. And Max, you've covered that in your rock journalism career as well. A lot of the people were artists. Where they have great careers. Very, very innovative in movies or music. And where do they go wrong?
Well, I'm fortunate because I have I'm in 2 books. The Smurl Haunting that came out like 5-6 days ago, and then this one is going to be published by Hanger One real soon. Paranormal Apocalypse. Is this how it ends? But I want to say this. I coined a term called apocalyptic awe. And I claim that we look through fear through fascination. We do this, we conquer fear through this fascination, through this apocalyptic awe. And that's motion pictures, literature, and songs. So we're able to look at that monster under the bed or the monster in the closet, through this apocalyptic awe. We look at it through another lens. And that's one thing we do. But you were talking about the creativity, and, I know the interesting story is some of these guys wanted to play like Charlie Parker, the great jazz musician, and he was addicted to morphine and then heroin. And they thought that if they were addicted to heroin, they could play just like Parker. And Charlie Parker said, "No, don't do that. You're just going to become an addict." And a lot of young musicians thought that if they could get high or stoned or drunk or whatever, that's going to go and trigger creativity. And it really doesn't. Creative people are creative, whether they're straight or stoned. And Miles Davis and Charlie Parker are examples of that. But some of these people that try to be like Kurt Cobain and do the heroin, with the grunge rockers out in Seattle, that Mexican black tar was so prevalent and it was so cheap that a lot of people were doing it and experimenting with it. And it was just a sad thing because a lot of people got addicted and a lot of people died. But, people thought that, using drugs was the key to creativity, and it's really not. It's a key to addiction. It's a key to a possible body bag. I just tell people just to, you know, I don't know, for my own, I don't know, I mean, I try to, do it straight edge. I mean, I stopped drinking. I'm very careful with the drugs, just because of the cognition. At my age, I don't want to go and mess up what I have. I don't think I need to do that, and I'm not going to do that. So again, that's my 2 cents about doing drugs or using drugs as a means to creativity. It doesn't work. Although we do think it's romantic. Some of us do, to be that creative person who's strung out.
But you can look at Samuel Taylor Coleridge.
Mm-hmm.
He went from the pinnacle of being a leading romantic poet to getting sidetracked for 30 years with not being known for anything. So I just want to throw that out there as well. But that's very interesting. And Max, since you just showed your new book, the Smurl, Smurl Haunting.
Yeah, it's the
okay. Yeah, that's covering more of demonic.
Yeah.
Stuff. Okay, I don't know if we can really apply demonic stuff to Mothman. Steve and Bill, you could probably answer that question far better than I can. But Max, can you tell us a little bit about why the Warrens were dealing with they thought a demon in the Smurl Haunting, and are we dealing with something totally different with the Mothman? That it is, Linda's kind of arguing he's good guy.
If it happened because of something evil, something bad, then maybe you can, But this Smurl Haunting was something that just sort of fell into my lap. West Pittston was in my backyard. It was like 30 minutes away. And in 1988, Ed and Lorraine Warren came to Jim Thorpe. They were doing a presentation. They were on a 15-city book tour for a book called The Haunted. So I went there and I met them, hung out with them, stayed in touch with them. And then the other thing that is, and this is kind of crazy, but, they had this Annabelle doll that was allegedly demonic. And Annabelle went on the road in 2025. So in April, Annabelle was in Gettysburg. April 11th, I went to Gettysburg to see Annabelle the doll. And me and my wife went. We paid $40 each. There was something like 1,240 people that showed up. Each of those people paying, the $40. But anyway, I met this guy, Dan Rivera. Dan was the chief handler for the Annabelle doll. And I met him on Friday, July the 11th. He gave me his phone number. I was going to call him on Monday, July the 14th to do the interview. Dan died on Sunday the 13th. I was one of the last paranormal guys to talk to Dan Rivera before he died. So some people are saying, well, let's not talk about this. It's because let's let his family grieve, in peace and in their own time. But there's people like the Psychic Vincent sisters from Butler, Pennsylvania that say, no, wait a second. Annabelle was kept in that little wooden cage with holy water and holy oil and the crucifixes for a reason. Lorraine Warden didn't want Annabelle to be taken out of Monroe, Connecticut, out of that occult museum. And Tony Spira, the son-in-law, took Annabelle around. And again, when I met Dan Rivera on the 11th, he died on the 13th. Some people thought it was a coincidence. The Psychic Vincent sisters from Western PA believe that Annabelle had something to do with it. So I don't know. I mean, I've been asked the question a million times. I'm sorry that he died. I'm not glad that I was there. But I mean, all these things happened to me. Being close to West Pittston, knowing Ed and Lorraine Warren, and staying in touch with them over the years, and then this Dan Rivera incident. So I don't know what to think. I mean, but I saw the doll. It was in this 5-foot wooden cage with glass, and the Lord's Prayer was tacked to the back, and it looked like a Raggedy Ann doll. That's what it looked like. But again, write this number down: 1,240 people paid $40 each in Gettysburg. So Tony Spira was making a whole lot of money on the road. They went to San Antonio, they went to West Virginia, they went to New Orleans, where there was the plantation fire and there was the jailbreak. Those 10 guys took off, an inside job. And then the thing at the Voodoo Queen's house, her place burned. 3 things happened when Annabelle was in New Orleans. 3 days that she was there. So what does that mean? I asked Dan Rivera. Dan said it was just a coincidence. And as people are saying that his death was a coincidence. So I don't know. I mean, any thoughts, Mark? I mean, some people think he died because of Annabelle the doll. So that's the question.
I don't know enough to, amplify your answer anymore, but I would like to give Bill and Steve a chance to work in some of Keel's observations that would that aren't necessarily in the Mothman prophecies, but Steve, I think you've spoken more about you can find closer to what Max is talking about in Keel's Trojan horse. Is that the eighth tower? I'll let you.
Well, Trojan horse was sort of his grand opus, where he pulls paranormal activity, cryptids, UFOs. He's very much like Charles Fort. He thinks you're dealing with points on a circle, and they're all in the same circle. And that was a book I resisted at first. But of course, the Eighth Tower was remnants of the Mothman prophecies, which the editors cut out. But my personal opinion, I think I'm on the same page with Keel. Keel seemed to find the whole thing very negative. He didn't seem to find an upside to this, but I think he fell short of believing literally in demons. I don't believe. I think there's a very negative aspect to some of this. People do have bad experiences. I think that many of these manifestations may have given rise to some of our beliefs in demonic activity and some of the negative side of our religious beliefs. But I could be very alone in that. And in part of my talk, which is going to be on start out on the Loch Ness Monster, but follow the journey of F.W. Holliday, Ted Holliday, who it's going to include a couple of exorcisms. Holliday's journey from thinking, nope, it's not a plesiosaur, it's a big slug. Oh, nope, there's something weird going on. And then he goes off to Ireland to investigate the horse eels, which are very much like Nessie, but they're in lakes that are like 30 feet shallow, maybe a quarter mile long. How do they survive? But I'll also be briefly touching on this book by Preston Dennett that talks about UFO healings, the positive side of this. It's almost like you have angels and demons, negative and positive, to a lot of this stuff. So, Now, Bill has done a lot of reading of Keel and Keel's works. I'm curious to know where Bill would come down on this.
Well, Steve, thank you. I think the first thing that I thought when Max was talking is that years ago, and we haven't talked about this in live air, but I'm just going to tell you anyway, I'm a person who's personally in recovery. And I've been sober from alcohol for close to 29 years. It's been a long time.
Good for you.
That was the beginning of my journey. And a speaker that I heard at an open AA speaker meeting one night made the comment, and this is somebody that I esteemed both from the business community and from the recovery community, said that everything started when I stopped. And like you were talking about, Max, with creativity, I've always been a very creative person, but I was the guy when I was in my 20s who would sit on the bar stool and tell you all the stuff I was going to do. And then I was so hungover the next 3 days after that, I didn't do anything, let alone even show up for work. So long story short, when you were talking about coincidences, I learned in my own recovery journey that in my mind now, there are no coincidences. And to kind of coin a phrase that Carl Jung spoke of, and that I think Keel and some of his disciples, so to speak, have adopted since then, is the word synchronicity. I think when we're seeking something, then sometimes the universe or like-minded people, like when we all descend upon Point Pleasant, we kind of come together and we find that commonality that really speaks to, diving deeper into the paranormal or whatever it is. The first thing that I thought, Max, when you were talking about the healing journey, is that for me and for many that I know, that happens in community. It doesn't happen individually. Now, for some people it does. So I don't discount any other way to go about doing that. But for me, it was in community. And then from there, that point forward, my own journey with the concept of post-traumatic growth was a matter of, okay, if I can deal with this, what else could I do? And then I got involved with sales, and I've had a very successful career in sales. And so, I mean, if you can overcome objections, you can close deals. And I still do that to this day. But the long story for me with Point Pleasant in particular, when it comes back to what we wrote about in Bridging the Tragedy, was the community of Point Pleasant. They all banded together. So many of them had a faith in God, in their community, in others. They just they healed together. And so I think when we all show up in community, whether it's for recovery or for the paranormal journey or the things that we look at, that we're really fascinated by, that I think that when we do that together, the universe finds ways to be able to help us get connected even deeper and to go down that path in even more fulfilling ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I can just see your book, Bridging the Tragedy, having so much of you in there, telling your story, maybe through that Silver Bridge.
And I thank you for saying that, because my introduction to the Mothman was through the movie. Like Steve was talking about, Richard Gere diving in, saving Laura Linney's life at the bottom of the river and all that kind of stuff. And that's good entertainment. It was fun to watch. But that got me into this whole thing. And then being able to learn from that point forward.
Yeah, we can't forget Brian Seach's butt, too.
No. Is that the part of him that's in the movie? I know he talks about being in the movie, but I didn't know which part of him was there.
Well, please let me tell you, because when I do the hayride on the Mothman Festival, if Brian's there, he'll pipe up and say, "Hey, Steve, did you know I was in the Mothman Prophecies?" Okay, you guys remember Alan Bates playing Dr. Leak, Keel spelled backwards, right? Great. I mean, those scenes between him and Gere are just fantastic. But there's a scene that's supposed to be in Chicago. It's actually, I think, Pittsburgh. They're walking up the steps to this big museum or whatever. And if you look way off in the distance, you'll see two guys about a quarter of an inch tall. One of them's carrying a briefcase. That is Brian Seach. And they made him do it again because he wasn't walking fast enough. When he's on my show, we do an anniversary show on the High Strangeness Factor. We always talk about the food they had there and how they weren't supposed to talk to the actors. I mean, it was such an entertaining day for him. And I keep accusing him. I said, "Brian, I know what you did. You took all that food and you stuffed it in that briefcase, and you didn't have to go grocery shopping for 2 weeks."
Okay. Did they shoot that in Pittsburgh?
A lot of it in Pittsburgh and different parts of Pennsylvania. Katanning, Pennsylvania was a sub for a lot of it. And even remember the motel, Avalon Motel, that was in 84, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I tried to stay there one night, even though I knew the interior set would be different. But I got there too late because the weather was so awful, and they said they weren't taking rooms. Like I wanted to be Richard Gere for one night.
Yeah.
Hopefully Ingrid wouldn't call, but
Yeah.
Steve, you really should play Leak in the remake of the movie. You resemble him very much so. You would excel at that role.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I've been told that before. I love Alan Bates. Just completely off subject. You have to see an old movie called King of Hearts. It's in French, English subtitles, Jean-Pierre Vougeot and Alan Bates. It is absolutely hilarious.
Okay. I just want to say, you folks that live in Western Pennsylvania, man, there must be something in the water there. I mean, it's just like the epicenter of everything weird. It all happens there,
Yeah.
Chestnut Ridge and Greene County and all that, Kecksburg and wow, God.
Yeah, Buffalo Bills.
I've always thought Pennsylvanians were a little bit off, but that's just me.
Well, you know what, though, with Bigfoot, 4 states have the most sightings. It's California, Washington, and either Pennsylvania is 3rd and Florida is 4th, or Florida's 3rd and we're 4th, but we're in the mix. So, that's kind of cool.
Well, you have Buffalo Bill's house that was filmed in
County.
Yeah, that's not too far from Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
that was from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah,
I think it's a bed and breakfast now. And you have your Evans City.
Oh yeah, Night of the Living Dead. Yeah.
Yeah, can't go wrong with this cemetery. Stopping to get a little photo of the fork in the road, and when that goes up the hill.
Man, you could watch that on YouTube. Night of the Living Dead. The first 15 minutes are the best music, best sequence, black and white. That hill going up and down. Nobody's done it as good as that. I mean, it's our stuff. It's Pennsylvania stuff.
And what's so interesting about it is, like so much of that graveyard. It's actually pretty nice sized cemetery, but actually where all the action took place is just a small 20-foot section with the Nicholas Kramer statue and Barbara's against holding up against the side. Oh my God, zombies are here, and
they're coming to get you, Barbara.
and the not the owner of Nightlight. We don't want to make fun of her, but the 2 other tombstones, the Blair tombstone, all that stuff. It's all right there together. It's like George Romero just said, okay, it's park the car here, get the stuff out. Okay, action and cut and put everything back in the car and head down the hill. It's actually, fascinating to see how the movie was made.
Yeah.
And just to interject one thing, since I'm subbing in for Dr. Leak as his stunt double, my favorite line that he says to Richard Gere is, "We're not allowed to know." He does it so well. He kind of cocks his head, he pauses, and remember John Keel, when he was being interviewed by Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM, when the film came out, said that Alan Bates reminded him of him. So now I've got this even a better connection with John Keel.
Okay. Hey, we're Max, we're a couple minutes over the hour. You have to do that thing the next day, called work. Did you want to kind of give a plug for your website and stuff, or you want to hang out for a few more minutes? What?
No, I just want to. Yeah, I want to thank you, and I'm gonna have to cut out, but I want to thank you for the invite. I'm sorry I can't stay longer, but this was great. Steve, hanging out with you and listening to your stuff. And I didn't have a chance to talk to you in Butler.
Right.
And Bill, I can't wait to read the Bridging the Tragedy. But so, yeah, my website is www.maximfurek.com. And you could check out my latest books, The Smurl Haunting and also Paranormal Apocalypse. And just thanks for doing what you're doing, Mark. I mean, this is just great. You have a great group of people here. And I think it's a great topic to talk about the trauma, that people, because people, I don't know if people even, are focused on that. I mean, trauma doesn't go away. I mean, it finds a way to manifest. And I mean, you have to do things to make it go away. You need to, like we've been saying, talk to people, identify it, find ways to go and put it in a nice little box or contain it or whatever, or else you just carry it around with you and it's going to go and find ways to destroy you. So,
well, that's why I thought having the three of you as a panel tonight might be some kind of way to let people know that there are services available. It's okay, to reach out to get help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, but
I think you three did a fantastic job as a way to get started on helping others. It's just kind of play on what you said earlier as therapy in the parking lots, therapy on a podcast, but
I think you're going to write that book. Steve, are you in Western Pennsylvania?
No, I am West by God, Virginia.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
living on the same road that the Scarberries and Mallets were chased by the Mothman.
Okay.
I can literally walk downtown if I want to.
Okay. And Bill, how about you?
We're in the greater Chicago area.
Okay.
But we travel to West Virginia at least once a year.
Okay. Very
and
good.
I will be introducing Bill and Jackie at the Mothman Festival as speakers.
Okay.
Let me know if I can reciprocate and introduce you, Steve, unless you've got somebody to do that already.
Well, it'll be 2:00 on Sunday when everybody's driving home. So
we'll still be there.
Okay, excellent. That'd be great.
Just let me know if you'd like me to do that. I'd love to.
That way I wouldn't have to sound like I'm very full of myself. Steve Ward has been doing this for years, and a sought after speaker.
Thanks so much. I'm cutting out. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Maxim.
Let's keep in touch, and
yes.
Good luck at the Mothman Festival.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
Max. Nice to meet you.
Okay,
thanks,
same here.
Max.
Take care.
And Steve and Bill, you can stay on if you want to talk for a few more minutes. But
Sure.
okay, Steve. So, Jackie and Bill are going to be couple of the speakers. You're going to be speaking as well. Who else does Jeff have lined up for this fantastic weekend event?
I don't have the list in front of me. Joey Medea will be there. Ken Gerhardt is going to be there, and he was just on my show.
He's one of the best.
Oh, good Lord! I'm blanking out now. I'm going to blame it on my age. Jeff always has there's a couple people I'm not familiar with.
Ashley Hilt's going to be.
Yes, Ashley Hilt is one that's going to be there. Her first time speaking there.
Richard Haddam's going to be there.
Oh, yeah, and yes, Richard Haddam, as he's going to have the speakers at the Trinity Church on let's see, they're actually on 7th Street and Main Street, between Main Street and Vian Street, or 62. That's where they'll all be speaking. Richard Haddam will be there. That whole event is free. But then he's also going to be doing at the other end of town, I think it's the BFW Hall, where we had speakers before. He's doing a paid event, a special event, and I don't have the details on that. And, he was on my show not too long ago. And I met him a couple of years ago at a Small Town Monsters event in Canton, Ohio. And I I didn't even know he was there. I hadn't read the brochure, but I look over to my left and holy cow, I was sitting at Stan Gordon's table, and I kept telling people I was Stan Gordon. I felt bad about it afterwards, but anyway, I said Richard had him, so I went and I talked to him, and I asked him if he had read Brent Rayne's book, John Keel, The Man, the Myths, and the Ongoing Mysteries, and he hadn't, because in that book, Brent Raynes talks about talking to John Keel's literary agent, and her name just went out of my head. I hate it when it happens, and it'll come back. But she said that she was talking to John Keel. He'd had several screenplays in the past. I think that they were just turning Mothman into a monster, and he just couldn't stand them. But he was on the phone with her, and she said he was so happy, he was laughing. He had just read Richard Haddam's screenplay, and he said, they've updated it, they've got me married and so forth, and they've told their own story. But he said finally that somebody captured some of the basic ideas of the book. He was very happy with Richard Haddam's screenplay, and he told Art Bell that too. And he said that the thing that he really captured was the paranoia he felt during all those events. And chapter, I think 16 in the Mothman Prophecies is paranoiacs are made, not born.
Yeah.
So and Richard Haddam tells great stories about how John Keel actually came out to California, and he had him to his home as a guest, and his kids were kind of young, and one kid was asking John Keel about, if a shark had a fight with a dog, who would win? Crazy questions like this. And Keel was very, very kind and would answer the crazy questions. Anyway, it was great to be able to tell him that, because he did not know it, that Keel was so pleased with his screenplay.
So, Mark, I do have the guest speaker list.
Oh, good deal.
At least what they have on the Mothman Festival webpage, and that's Richard Haddam, Joey Medea, Ashley Hilt, Dave Spinks, Dave Hardy, Steve Ward, Jack Dreyer, Ken Gerhard, Joe Perdue, Ron Lanham, Jackie and me, and Dave Hardy.
Joe Perdue and Ron Lanham are from Wild and Weird, West Virginia, and they do a great show. And
they really do.
I was out with them in the Chief Cornstalk Hunting Ground, and we saw it was captured on some of the different equipment they had, but I had never seen much in the way of UFOs in my life, and we captured they captured some just amazing stuff out there. And some of the stuff that even looked a little bit like the Tic Tac videos and so forth, where it has kind of that black ring around it, or aura, whatever you want to call it. So, and they really, they did a workshop last year out at the TNT area, and I spoke out there, and these guys really, they know the equipment, and they really do a lot of great research. So. And they always do a good talk. So,
okay, hey, Bill, let me toss a question over to you. And what do you what keeps you coming back to Point Pleasant? Is it the people, scenery? Something else? What?
I would say that when Jackie and I traveled to Point Pleasant the first time,
I shall return.
It probably would have just been a one and done type of a vacation. But having met Carolyn, having met Mark Griffith, and having met Lynn, Mark's half sister, Lynn Cornwell Robinson, who's the 7th fire granddaughter of Chief Cornstalk, had we not met those people, and then with Carolyn's tragic passing, I don't know that we would have come back as frequently as we have. But I think what we found there is a sense of community, not just the paranormal community, but the people in West Virginia are so open, welcoming, and kind. They make you feel like talking to you is the most important part of your day. And I'm not saying that because of me. I'm saying that because of that's who they are. They're just so welcoming. You just feel like you belong there. And it's almost like a family reunion now. I mean, we've known Steve now for 5-6 years. We've known Jeff now for 9 years. We've gotten to know you the last few years. Not that you live there, but you're there frequently. We see you at the festival. But I mean, some of the folks that we've gotten to know over the years have become very near and dear to us. In fact, some of the people that we interviewed for Bridging the Tragedy, we get together with every time we're in town. And specifically, I'm talking about Linda Lane and Marva Bailey. We see them every time we come to town. It's like it's a sense of family. And Carolyn gave that to us, and she just really epitomized that spirit. But I mean, 90% of the people that we meet in Point Pleasant make us want to come back. That's why we keep coming back.
Yeah, so you were just talking about it's a sense of a community, and it's not necessarily involved in the paranormal. But there are, I think there's been a lot of sense of community with Ozzy's passing, and the in the metal community. Do you are you seeing that with all the bands you've seen? Covering some of the like paranormal events and different metal lyrics is touching on maybe a little bit of what's in Mothman Prophecies, is delving into what we really don't have an explanation for. Mm-hmm. What is it, something good or bad?
I can tell you, you mentioned Ozzy Osbourne, and I grew up on that music. I did. And I got to tell you, when he passed away, it really deeply impacted my wife. I mean, she mourned, she grieved. I hated to even break the news to her because I knew before she did. But it was heartbreaking for her because she held him in such high regard. And it was neat to see the community just really rally around him and his family, during his last days and such, and that big concert they put on in England and all that kind of business. But, for me, the two have kind of been intertwined. I mean, that's been my musical background, was with heavy metal music. And a lot of the imagery is swords and sorcery and darkness to a certain degree. But I think for me, to go back to what you said a moment ago, one of the things that I noticed when we were working on Bridging the Tragedy, although I'm still very interested in the paranormal, I've gotten to be more interested in the people and their experiences, and really just hearing how those experiences have impacted them, whether it was the bridge disaster, whether it was seeing UFOs, lights in the sky, whatever it might be, Mothman. But the people's stories have become really important to me personally.
Okay. Steve, since Bill just referenced UFOs, where is that? In the Mothman Prophecies, there's like the Chief Cornstalk hunting grounds. Then there was the communicating with turning his Keel and Mary Hire were on 5 Mile Creek Road, doing kind of like a Morse code with a flashlight, and
right.
The car headlights, and Mary saying, "Oh, well, you're communicating with them." Is that road still in existence?
Well, I think, and by the way, my one of my cats is trying to steal my thunder here.
Look at that.
What can I do? And this is Lucky. Lucky was a stray in a parking lot in Point Pleasant. And I don't know where you're going there, buddy, but I had to bottle feed him for 2 or 3 weeks. So he's a pretty neat cat. But anyway, back to your question. I actually was trying to find 5 Mile Creek Road. Now, the thing about John Keel was he was a little bit vague and deceptive about, specifics about where some of these places were, to prevent people like us going there with our, and our flashlights and our, as investigators. So I actually went down there. My ex-wife, she and I went to the 2006 Mothman Festival, and so I met Jeff Wanzer the first time, and I asked Jeff about this 5 Mile Creek Road, and there was another guy there that said, kind of told me, go down to Gallipolis Ferry. There is a 5 Mile road there, and make a left on there, and then he says to me, "Don't get lost in them hollers." And I'm thinking, oh, he's kidding, right? No, he was not kidding. We're in her Impala. Didn't really gas up. And so I got lost in them hollers big time, and trying to find 5 Mile Creek Road. Well, it turns out actually John and Tim Frick, who portray the Men in Black by day during the festival and Fly the Mothman by night, they read one of Jeff's books, and there's a lady in there that makes a reference to that road. They talked to her, and she said that she knew at least one of the places where they used to go up there, Mary Hire and others. And it's not technically, it's not 5 Mile Creek Road. In fact, I don't know if there is a 5 Mile road. I'm not going to tell people how to get there because it'll lead you up to private property. But we went up there. Several of us went up there a few nights years ago, and we tried to stay off what we thought was any private property, and just kind of watch the sky for a while. We think there may have been more than one place that Keel and Mary Hire would stay, but that was one of them. That was so that's and it was just very cool to be in a place where we think John Keel and Mary Hire and others were watching the strange lights going overhead. And of course, it was down further south. Well, actually, no. In that same general wide area, the Chief Cornstalk hunting grounds, where he saw those purple lights. Remember that passage in the Mothman prophecies. And it's very interesting because in one of his talks that I think you can still probably find online, he used to there was a series of lectures in New York City, the Fortean Society, I think, and he talks about those lights. He said they actually came down. And when he had been flashing the flashlight, they came down and surrounded him as if they were living. So, and we think, oh, by the way, the Wild and Weird West Virginia guys, Joe and Ron, that's the area we think. Well, they found it. I'm pretty sure that's the area where we saw the strange UFO activity. And if you remember, John Keel said there were some kids out there that had lit a fire. And he told them to, put the fire out because that'll, you will not attract what you're trying to attract. And there are a couple pits there, a legitimate fire pit. Said that's the only place out there. So they think that they nailed that particular area. So that was pretty exciting. But yeah, that was, and the reason, I'll wrap it up here. The reason they went down there south, several miles south of Point Pleasant, to Gallipolis Ferry, still in West Virginia, was because the TNT area had become so popular. There were just huge lines of people going in there, and many of them apparently had shotguns and bow and arrows, thinking they might bag themselves a Mothman. And I guess I'll say one more thing to show you how lost and befuddled a northerner can get. When I came down there, and I went in into that area off Highway 2, got totally lost, and I came out on the river, and it looked like, I'm thinking, wait a minute, the river was on my right side, and now, it was on my right side, and now it's on the other side. I thought, how did I get across the river? And it was the difference between the Ohio and the Kanawha. I went in on Highway 2, came out on 35. So I finally, hey, you're not dealing with a chimp here. So I finally figured it out. But and now I still am pretty geographically challenged in West Virginia. You could set me down in some places, and I'd never find my way back.
It, yeah, just keep spending more time here. You'll get the hang of it. But
I can find the museum. I'm good there.
And okay, so you mentioned the Frick brothers. Okay, we have to give them the obligatory nod each year. John and Tim really do a lot, behind the scenes work. Okay, so what? They're pretty tall guys in the first place, so they kind of stick out as the men in black. But what are they going to be doing at the TNT area for the tours?
Well, we during the tours they fly the Mothman. They go in ahead of time like I do. I'm going to be spending about 3.5 days setting up stuff in the TNT area. I'm refurbishing some of the monsters I have built and adding a few more. I go in, I set up spider webs and then giant rubber and fuzzy spiders, light up their eyes with indicator lights, and use flashlights and puck lights to kind of highlight everything. I've got some pretty. I feel like a young Dr. Frankenstein cobbling together these creatures, and while I'm doing that, they go in ahead of time. They run. They have to run. They hide behind the old acid plant when they fly the Mothman. They have to run a wire down, connected to one of the old structures that are still there from the World War II days. And the Mothman, that if you walk in the Mothman Museum, you look up in the ceiling, you'll see the Mothman that they fly down that wire. They have this ingenious low-tech hand crank delivery system. They light up his eyes with battery power, and they blast a sound effect. I can't tell you where they get it from because it's copyrighted. I don't believe they paid royalties, and I don't want the poor guys to end up in ankle bracelets on during the festival. So, but that's a lot of fun. And the thing is, when I go in there to set these things up, there's no template. I mean, I just have to figure it out and climb ladders and stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Dave Spinks has been a guest with us. If you watch one, the Travel or History Channel, you can see him on there in the TNT area. He's investigating one of the igloos. He's hopefully a lot of the viewers are going to we'll meet him over the meet him and Serenity Jenny over the festival weekend. But if you get to know Dave, he's former cop, and he's just a real straight shooter. He's not. He can tell in a captivating story, but he's going to just get to the point. He's very good at what he does, and I think he represents the region very well in his appearance there. And let's see what Steve, you said Jeff is working on a new book. It's just about ready to come out. What's the deal there?
I'm glad you brought that up because now this book, I talked to him about that book when I first met him. He's had material ready for that third book. His first book was the Mothman, the Facts Behind the Legend, and then Mothman Behind the Red Eyes. Parts of this have been on the back burner for a long time. But last summer, Roger Scarberry, now a lot of these people gave initial interviews over half a century ago. Roger came to Jeff out of a clear blue and said, Jeff, I'm tired of hearing people tell my story and getting it wrong. So he went to set up the interview the next day, and Jeff just said, Roger, just tell me, did it really happen? And Roger Scarberry said, it scared the hell out of me. It scared the hell out of all of us. I was in on part of that interview, but of course it's under double secret probation. I can't talk about it. It will be in Jeff's next book. But also remember Connie Carpenter. She was the one that was when she was 18 years old, was passing the Mason County golf course, saw this thing take off, fly over the car, and she contracted conjunctivitis, eye burn. She came forward and gave another long form interview after being quiet for half a century. By the way, the lady's name I couldn't remember was Sandra Martin. She was John Keel's literary agent, and she really loved John and loved his writings. So that's going to be in there. I know there's some other people he's hoping to get in. I have no inside scoop on when it's going to be out, but man, people just can't wait to hear those interviews. I heard a little bit about Connie's sighting. Again, double secret probation. I would probably be exiled to Henderson across the river, across the bridge, if I were to utter any secrets. So, but yeah,
did I hear Steve and Mary Millette came forward also?
Not that I know of. I know that he would love to talk to them, and it's possible, but I don't know of that for sure.
Okay, yeah, you would know if it actually happened. For some reason, I thought that I saw that someplace, but my subconscious might have put that together.
That would be phenomenal.
Oh, yeah, it's funny. So when I was out there in 2019, I was out in the TNT type area or thereabouts, and we had a tour guide. I was with a friend of mine. Jackie couldn't make it that year, and he had family members that were taking us around the area, and they showed us where Steve and Mary lived. And they said, let's just go knock on the door. I'm like, no, we're not going to go knock on their door. If they don't want to talk to people locally, they don't want to talk to some Yahoo from the Chicago area. So we didn't do that.
I've got to
go ahead. Oh, I was just going to ask, is conjunctivitis something, a side effect of paranormal events? You might get a sample in one of Kathleen Martin's book. I think it's one of her books on Betty and Barney. She was making some connections with other cases. I think that's.
Yeah, I should have explained it better. Conjunctivitis is you can get that just being out in bright sunlight, but it's often associated with close encounters with UFOs or strange lights or whatever.
Oh,
so it was unusual that it happened with a cryptid, but apparently that does happen occasionally.
Okay, so I wasn't all that familiar. Just like the one example that I think it was Kathleen mentioned, but I just didn't know how often it happened. That was interesting.
I don't think it's real often, but John Keel in the book said he knew she was telling the truth because she had that eye burn, that situation, and it happened after she saw this thing with the red glowing eyes.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Okay. What? Okay. So, Bill, what do you have going on with your new website?
So the website that we have now is called prpconnect.org. Again, letters PRP, as in Phenomenology Research Professionals, connect.org. And I mean, really, we're using it right now primarily as a repository for some of the podcasts and radio shows that we've had the opportunity to do. We have links to the Amazon website for our book as well too. And then we've begun talking a little bit about the book we're working on presently, which is a relationship between trauma and paranormal activity as it plays out in people's lives as well too. So that's the next step of what we're working on presently.
Okay, cool. Look forward to reading that book as well. Okay, so we're gonna go for about another 12 minutes. What, Steve? What else can people expect when they come down for the Mothman Festival on what days? Is it September
20th and 21st, and it's however whatever the third weekend is for in September. That's when they have it. It varies a bit.
Okay, and where the lectures taking place?
It's the it's the Trinity something church. There's so many churches there that I can't remember all the names. But anyway, it's right on 7th Street and between Main Street and 62 or Vian Street. I told myself I was going to anyway. Big, beautiful church. And if you see the church with Trinity in the title, you got it. You're there. It's air conditioned. They've got a nice venue. I will be tied to that church quite a bit. I plan to have everything set. I hope everything's set up and ready to go in the TNT area. I'm actually going to turn all the lights on, indicator lights, and leave them on for a day because I can't guarantee that I'm going to be able to get there to turn them on and have enough time. But I have tested. I've done all the testing of all the batteries and everything at home to see how long everything will last, and guaranteed it's all extremely low voltage. No one is going to get zapped. I don't. It's going to be hard. It's hard to have injuries with a 6-volt lantern battery. But anyway, so I will be doing that. I'll be doing one of the tours on Saturday night, along with Jeff Wamsley. Has always done one of the tours. The mastermind behind the festival. A great lady, Brittany Sayre. She's going to be doing one of them too. I think was her grandfather was a National Guardsman and saw the Mothman.
Yeah.
Great lady. She's the one that takes care of my little fur balls if I have to travel. So, and they're in good hands with her. I hope to get down to the festival and see some of that. I will be speaking at 2:00 on Sunday, again about the Loch Ness Monster, starting out with the Loch Ness Monster, but it's going to be focusing on this fascinating guy, F.W. Holliday, and his journey through trying to figure out what this thing is. And also he gets involved in a high strangeness area in Dyfed, Wales in 1977 in the southwest corner. And I'm going to be dealing with the sort of the yin and yang of the paranormal. It's going to be pretty crazy. People might be walking out wondering, what the hell is this? What did I pay all this money? Oh, wait a minute, I didn't pay for it. But and also I have a book out with called The Mothman High Strangeness with Mark Randall, the great graphic artist. He and I wrote the pieces for it. I won't be selling it. I won't have time for it, but he's going to have a table there with all his great artwork and all his products, along with the Mothman High Strangeness. So anyway, I think that's about it. And just pray that I get all my critters made and get my house clean. I got a buddy of mine, a Mothman buddy of mine, is coming down from Philadelphia, and man, there's no way he can get into the guest room right now.
Okay. Well, we want to make sure that John gets.
I'll tell him, hey, go to Mark's house. I mean, I don't have any room here.
I have a small area over here. John's not a huge, isn't going to take up a huge space, but John's always welcome here. And short drive across town, but he and I've compared notes on rebuilding after the flood.
Oh,
So it's
yeah, the flood.
yeah, he yeah he yeah I really like John. So he provides a lot of insights, and
And he likes my cats too. He doesn't mind my. I got 6 now, so that's
yeah,
Oh boy.
he says he likes them. I don't know if they
I,
were a good match with his
Bill. I
chicken
tried to stop it
collection.
too.
And if last week we did show some of Mark's
Oh yeah,
artwork and Linda's books. I don't know how he does this stuff, but that's what just kind of didn't have enough time to devote to every example of paranormal artists that we covered. Poe or Samuel Taylor Coleridge, but at least we got Mark plugged again tonight. He really does work. I just don't know how he spreads the inks around, or whatever technique he uses, but it works. Like,
yeah,
so
good stuff.
stop over and see him at his tent, and Ken's going to be there this year. He's really top notch animal behavior observer. Works in a zoo. He really. If you're looking at, he can talk about the Patterson film. It's Patty really does show the characteristics of like this kind of or the way an orangutan or the gorilla or like this other kind of animal walks. He's a wealth of information. I haven't spoken to him a lot, but I really do admire what he does. He's just a top-notch researcher.
And Bill, you guys are going to have a table?
We do
Okay,
as
good
well.
deal.
Yeah, we'll be there as well too. And I wanted to let you guys know too that a few years ago, Small Town Monsters put out a documentary called "On the Trail of the Lake Michigan Mothman," and I wanted to let you know. And Steve, you met Sam Moranto.
Yep.
We did a conversation with him a couple of years ago, you and Susie, and Jack Chavez, who has Paranormal Chicago. He was also in that documentary. He and Sam worked hand in glove investigating those alleged things that were happening in the Chicagoland area. He's going to be coming with us.
Oh,
So
good.
he'll be at our table. So anybody who's interested in hearing the scoop from somebody who was right there in the community and really close to what was being reported on in Chicago a few years ago, Jack's a really good wealth of information for that. So
Good
keep
deal.
your eyes open for him.
Okay.
I just hope I can get down between speakers and do some visiting. So
Yeah, well, we'll get you introduced. We'll find a way to make that happen.
Okay, excellent, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, and if people can go into the River Museum as well. That's
Yes.
right down the street in the Mansion House. So if like
Well, let me-
who can get burned out on Mothman stuff, but there are other
It's
captivating.
there's where the bridge originally ran, and there's all kinds of stuff. You go through the flood wall, you see other sculptures by Bob Roach. You gotta visit the Mothman statue, and if I'm not there to guide you, you've got to walk around behind the statue to get the full Monty, so to speak. But another thing is there's only two things that cost money. Well, besides food and T-shirts and that sort of thing. To get in the museum, the back part of the museum costs a few bucks to get in. And it's very difficult during the festival. If you can get down there early, like Thursday or even Friday, you might be able to get in there easier. And there's a lineup with the Mothman statue. But if you want to do the Mothman hayride, you've got to get there early Saturday and stand in line. It's still going to be $5, it looks like. And it's a real blast. I tell you what, I have so much fun with the people on the hayride. And it doesn't really matter who you pick. I mean, you got Jeff Wansley, the man that started it all, Brittany Sayre. And I'll tell you one thing that makes me jealous of Brittany. Every time when we come back, sometimes we come back about the same time, everybody spontaneously claps for Brittany. I mean, it just happens. So I tell people sometimes if we're coming back about the same time, I say, hey, listen, start clapping for me. Whoop it up. I want to, have one over on Brittany. And so they'll obey. And then I tell Brittany, look at that unsolicited appreciation. So we have a good time.
Brittany's a great kid.
She is absolutely solid.
Okay. We should probably get in any last minute plugs. It's about a quarter till we have to wrap. The new shows only go to about for an hour and 45 minutes because of some of the new tech stuff involved that actually helps to promote the show even more. So, do you have any last minute things you want to plug, and then we'll just call it a wrap for the evening?
I'd like to, Mark, if I could. So for anybody who's in town on Friday night and is interested in going across the river over to the Gallup Police Library, it's called the Samuel L. Bossard Library. Jackie and I will be presenting on Bridging the Tragedy that night. So we'll be talking specifically about our book and primarily about the bridge disaster and how it affected the community. The next day, our presentation is going to be both about Bridging the Tragedy and about our new book, Transcending the Darkness, which goes into, like I mentioned, the correlation between trauma and paranormal activity. Is it reciprocal? Does one precede the other, et cetera, et cetera? And Reverend Michael Carter is one of the interviewees for that book coming up. So looking forward to seeing you folks.
That'll be great.
A few weeks here. Yeah.
And for me, Mark, I have the podcast, The High Strangeness Factor, on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I've had a hiatus now and then, but I'm back with just interviewed Ken Gerhardt and Bill Konkoleski of Michigan MUFON will be coming up. And I've got a backlog of 5 or 6 years on with Andy Mercer, a Brit from across the ocean. He's the producer. And we also have Susie Bastille, the Pugwedgie Whisperer. So, and Mac Maloney's Military X-Files. I'm on as a correspondent, whatever the hell that means. And it's on the same network and many other platforms. And it's just kind of a wild and crazy show.
Okay. I just want to thank you, Bill and Steve, for a great show. Max brought some other great insights that I think everyone contributed fantastic information to tonight's discussion. I'm very appreciative, and I just hope this keeps helping to promote what Jeff started in Mason County. It's really a idyllic community. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Barbara, for keeping us on the air. And we will see everyone. I think I'll be back in a couple weeks with another. And it's kind of like a wrap up of all these, the cryptid trilogy that we've been doing over the last few weeks. So thanks again, everyone, and talk to you soon.